Hi, and welcome to Presence with the wonderful Holly Duckworth and myself, Ravi Tangri. And this is our show it is August the 19th. Hi, Holly.
Hi, Ravi. Happy August 19th. How did this happen? It's our sixth show already.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Well, we are happy to welcome viewers on our new platform on Zoom. This is going to give us some new opportunities to record and certainly have a dialogue with viewers as well. So we want to invite more people to watch us live. On today's show, we are leaning into the fact that it is already the end of the Olympics. They end on this Sunday. So our show is how to own or how to create your own Olympic vision. Ravi and I have had the opportunity to watch bits and pieces of the Olympics from the opening ceremony to the closing ceremony, and we're just observing things with these various athletes that we think are great life traits and leadership traits that bring them more presence, whether they're swimming on the main stage or running track or certainly doing gymnastics. And that key trend that we've been observing is the idea of visualization or visioning. While there's been a lot of talk about cupping, those little red dots all over many of the athletes, there's been less talk about the importance of creating an Olympic vision. And in the case of so many of these athletes, they have created this vision, some of them just a year ago, some of them 5 years ago, some of them 12 years ago. I watched Usain Bolt last night. This is his third Olympics and his third round of gold medals. I think he has 8 now. And what I've experienced is really understanding that they had to get into a specific mindset or a vision about what it is that they wanted to create. So on today's show, we wanted to break down first the concept of vision versus visualization. Ravi, you and I had a great chat about this yesterday and want to share with our listeners the idea that a vision for many is the state of being able to see something. As a leadership expert, I often hear the concept of creating a vision board. And while I think vision boards are great and often an underutilized tool for creating the presence that you want in your life, I actually encourage my audiences to start with a vision, but then really move to a visualization. And visualization, as I look at it, is taking those mental images off the vision board and bringing them into your heart, into your mind, into your spirit, and creating the energetic resonance, the feelings in your body that you want to feel when you get those particular visions. So, Ravi, what's your thoughts on that? Vision versus visualization?
Well, it's interesting because, when it was interesting having that conversation with you yesterday, because for me, it's just automatic that when I have a vision, I internalize it, right? And I don't have that separation. So it was really cool to get that realization and then of that distinction. And that's going to tie into one of the key tools. And I think right now, for many years now, the difference between the gold, silver, bronze is not necessarily the physical conditioning. It's the sports psychology, the visualization work, all of that. I was just popping up. I shared an article yesterday that I think was really interesting. It's on LinkedIn or just a post. And it said that in 2008, a boy from Singapore took a picture next to Michael Phelps. So just a little boy took his picture next to Michael Phelps. And now at this Olympics, this boy Joseph Schooling, competed in the finals of the 100-meter butterfly swimming in Rio, and he beat Phelps and broke his Olympic record and got the gold medal. So I think, meeting Phelps at that young age, I'm sure that imprinted on that kid, and he started creating that, seeing himself as Phelps. And then this last few days, it became his reality, and he actually beat Phelps. So that must be amazing for that kid to be in that experience. But you can see where the roots of that vision would have come when he met him that day in Singapore 8 years ago.
That's how it happens. It really is. It's creating that vibrational desire in yourself, because as you said, it's not just the sports psychology, but it's the overall, the body, the mind, and the spirit. He created something that he wanted so bad he was willing to do the work. I don't know if you've seen the new Under Armour ad that they did for Michael Phelps, where they show him the ad, and it's, what you do in the dark creates what you do in the light. Mm-hmm. And this visualization process kind of is one of those things you do alone, not necessarily in the dark, but you do alone, and you're constantly creating that mental equivalent in your mind, your body, and your spirit, so that you can have it in the moment of light, whatever that is for you in your life.
Yeah, and the distinction that we're making between vision and visualization, this comes down to how our brains work, and there's a couple of pictures, the ways we make pictures in our mind's eye. Okay, when we create pictures, there's two different types of pictures you can have. And maybe to illustrate this, let me give you an exercise. Okay, a little exercise to try out. And what I'll ask the viewers to do, and Holly, if you want to give this shot while we're going through it, is to think of something that you love to do. It could be a hobby, it could be your work, it could be time with friends, something you absolutely love to do, right? That's so much fun. And I'd like you to imagine the last time you did it or the next time, and just almost as if you're right there, if it's some sort of a sport, that all the people that you feel the energy and you hear the noises and all, and step into that picture as if you're right there, right? So you can feel all the energy of that. And then almost as if you could take that picture and as if you could push it like 50 feet away from you, make it small and tiny, a tiny little picture out there of you doing this, and make it dimmer and dark. And then if you can, just swing it around behind you. And what do you notice changes, Ollie, when you do that?
My heart rate is slower. It feels sad that experience is going away.
Right. And now bring it back in front, make it big, bright, colorful, and jump in again. And step right into that memory. And what happens?
I smiled.
Yeah. So you get the feelings back, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the big difference. So there's two ways we can make pictures in our mind's eye. One is called associated, and that's when you're in the picture, reliving it as if you're there. So if I was to imagine this tomorrow in an associated way, I could see my hands, I could see my body, I couldn't see my face because it's like I'm reliving it. Dissociated, the other way of making a picture, is like looking at a picture or looking at a TV screen or a movie screen. You're looking at yourself doing it, but you're not in the picture, so you see yourself. And what happens when you dissociate is you disconnect from the feelings. And what happens then is it just doesn't work, because the way that this works, as we understand it, is you need a picture that's vivid and detailed, and you need to infuse it with the emotions of already having it and how great it feels and so on. The moment you dissociate, you've taken away half of the equation. You've taken away the feeling. And so it's pointless. It's a total waste of time. So if you're just picturing yourself doing it and you're seeing yourself and you're not getting the energy, it's not going to work, right? And that's what you're calling visioning. The vision is outside, and you've got to use visualization to step into the vision and feel what it would be like. Not in the future, but imagine you're living it right now.
Exactly right. In my visioning process with my coaching clients, I have a meditative process, and the question is, what does your highest and best look like, feel like, and sound like? And from that meditative place, I invite clients to really step into what is their highest and best, and how do they feel in it? What does it sound like? What does it look like? What does it taste like? One of my favorite experiences doing this was with actually a business group. And we were doing it in terms of what is the highest best for their business. And this one gentleman, I'll never forget it, he says, it feels like warm laundry. And we all went, great,
Okay.
wonderful, but that's not a context you think of in business. Yet we utilize that imagery and his energetic connection to it to discover that he was wanting to create a business climate, a culture that was warm and inviting and welcoming for staff. It was inviting for customers, inviting for their strategic partners, that you could feel that comfortable when you visited their office. And we utilized that to create a concierge network and and a bunch of different options for them. But it came from his willingness to get out of, oh, it has to look a certain way, to connecting to his, we talked last week on the show, his intuition that said it could be more. And then from that, we created that visualization, and then ultimately it became their reality.
Yeah, and that feeling is the missing piece. You can see and hear it if you're dissociated, but that doesn't work. You've got to get the feelings, and also you'd also mention to taste, to smell. Those are powerful things. Like, to be able to trigger those senses, you're using your imagination to imagine that you're actually there. The thing is, this formula of a detailed picture and emotion, it doesn't matter what the emotion is, it's actually used by the majority of people, but in the wrong way. What most people do is they create a vision in their mind's eye. They focus on what they don't like about their lives, about what's not working. And the emotion they infuse it with is the fear or the anger or the stress. And guess what they create more of? That. And those are usually the people that poo-poo all of this, the thoughts create things. And yet they are experts at it. They're just using it with the wrong picture and the wrong emotion, instead of what you don't want and the emotions of what you don't want. I mean, think about it this way. If I was to tell you, our brains work in pictures, right? And if I was to ask you for just a moment, don't think about a purple grasshopper, what happens?
You see a purple grasshopper.
Right. You can't make a picture of a negative. So if you say, I don't want stress, guess what picture you create?
Stress.
Stress. And that's what you manifest, right? And so people that focus on what they don't want and all the fears, what they're actually doing is telling the universe, that's what I want more of. And it goes, okay, guess what you want? Rock and roll, let's do it. But it's kind of crazy, right?
Now, the thing that we love about the show, Ravi, is that these techniques, this visualization technique or visioning technique that we're sharing with people today, is a technique that we've actually used ourselves to create reality in our life. So do you have a story, a case study, an example of a time that you visioned or visualized something and it actually came true? How'd that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's, I could see one of the powerful visions that happened for me, and it happened literally a week after I created the vision and started infusing it with a feeling, was before I was married for several years, and I had part of my vision, and it's important when I work with myself, when we work with my clients, we work with a holistic vision. You got to build it for your whole life. But part of it was I wanted a life partner who also shared my work. And it was literally a week after I'd created that picture that the sparks happened with the woman I wound up getting married. And she had simultaneously at the same time crafted the same thing in her vision. And it was that fast. Once you had the clarity, someone that could share life and work and be of the same mind, all of a sudden we'd known each other, but suddenly the sparks happened and bam, right? And 7 months later we were married. It was there. Now once you're in a relationship, there's different things that happen, and it takes work to build visions together, but that's a whole different thing. But that's one thing. Time for me, it happened literally, bam, like that.
Well, Ravi, I completely agree with you in the idea of creating a holistic vision for your life. And sometimes that can be overwhelming for people. We have some, new listeners. They're just starting on their spiritual journey, or they're growing their presence utilizing these tools. So I'm going to share kind of an opposite example for me. It was probably about December of 2012. And I was in my own beginning phases of vision, visualization, creating my life. And we talk about people record your demonstrations, keep a journal of what you're trying. And what I did on a whim was I flipped through some magazines that week between Christmas and New Year's, and I found a picture of a dress that I liked. And I thought, oh, that's a great color. It's a great cut. I really like this dress. And I cut it out of the magazine and I put it on what was then my vision board, and didn't think that much about it. About 3 weeks later, I was traveling on business. Actually, at the time I lived in Portland, Oregon, was traveling here to Denver, walked into a store, there's the dress hanging on the rack. And I was like, wow, that was fast. And clearly I have to have this dress. I had already set the mental equivalent of what it would feel like to be in that dress. I took the vision off the vision board and brought it into the visualization, and certainly wore that dress several times on stage. So while this is about creating an Olympic vision, I believe that those athletes took one little vision. I'm going to win my local meet. I'm going to win my regional meet. I'm going to win my state meet. I had the opportunity a handful of years back to work on the U.S. figure skating championships. And so I worked with many figure skaters at the time that were, they're out there early in the morning doing their little thing, and that little thing became bigger and became bigger and became bigger, and then certainly many of them won medals. So don't look at the show and say, oh my gosh, if I don't create a huge vision, it'll never happen. I think use little visions to grow your ability to utilize this tool, and each one of these little things becomes part of your Olympic vision.
And also, when I say holistic, I don't mean it necessarily has to be big, but you don't just look at work or just at a relationship or just at fitness, right? Because people say, well, I've got a work life and a home life. You don't. You got one life. It's intertwined. So there's got to be balance, right? So if you want success at work, if you don't address home to some extent, it could have an impact. Like success could mean you don't put time into work and your relationships or into home, and relationships there could suffer, right? And so on. So that's all I mean. It's holistic. You want to address different parts of your life.
Exactly. So you had a great tip you used with me yesterday that we want to share on how to start doing this. So tell us more about that, Ravi.
Well, once you write your vision, I really recommend writing it out, and you do not write it as I will do something. You write it as if it's already accomplished. So if you set a goal for the end of this year, you say it is now December 31st, and I'm so happy and grateful now that and write it all in present tense. And you not only describe the vision, but you describe how it feels, right? And it's so important to do it in present tense as if you've accomplished it. And this is the exercise then I'm going to give you is one I use with all my coaching clients. I use it when I do the discovery retreat, about where I work with people to connect with what's your inner sense of purpose, and then how do you sculpt your life around that. So once they have that vision, I also coach them for about 6 weeks, mostly for this. This was developed by Thomas Trord, who is a circuit judge in the British Empire about 100 years ago. And the man is brilliant. I mean, his work is so incredible. It's very dense, which is why it's probably not popular, as popular as others. But I mean, this guy, 40 years before it was discovered, was describing from a philosophical point of view, he was describing quantum physics. It's mind-blowing. But this exercise is really simple. What you do is you get yourself a coil-bound scribbler. And on the first page, I was just seeing if I had one handy. I don't. On the first page, you write out your vision, okay, in present tense. It is now this date, and I'm so happy and grateful now that. Then what you do every day, you read that, and then you close it, sit down, close your eyes, and step into that vision. Imagine you're there, and you've got to associate into it, be in the picture, and imagine yourself going through an ideal day and see all the things that you've accomplished over this last however many months or so. And as if you've already got it, and feel what it would feel like. Imagine that, okay? Step into it. Then what you do is you take the scribbler, flip to the next blank page, and write it out again. It is now this date, and I'm so happy and grateful now that. You don't copy it. You go from what you imagine, from what you visualize. Once you've written that out, You tear out the first page, which is what you read in the beginning, rip it up. The next day, you read what you wrote the second day. Close your eyes, visualize it, step into it again, imagine what it's like. When you finish, open the book to the next blank page, write it out again, keep that, rip out the one you wrote the day before, tear it up, let it go. And you do that for 30 days. Do it at the time that works for you, whether it's in the morning or in the evening or a break in the afternoon, whatever will work best for you, about where you can take 15, 20 minutes to really focus on this. This one thing will take you so much further than anything else. Like it's mind-blowing, blows me away. I've been using this for myself and with my clients for years. And I'm amazed that in that 30 days, how far they go in creating, manifesting the vision. Like with the discovery program and with a lot of my coaching clients, what we do, I work with them and build a 5-year vision and a more detailed 1-year plan. But I think it's a lot because of this one tool. They typically, graduates of discovery, accomplish a full 5-year vision within about 18 months. You know, this accelerates it so much, because what happens every day as you visualize it, you're seeing more and more details. Remember, number one, you need a very detailed picture. Number two, as you're stepping into it, you're feeling what it would be like. You're imagining it. You're infusing it with that emotion. That's the second part. And so every day, as you visualize it, as you live it, as you rewrite it, you're getting the detail and you're getting the emotions. And what'll happen, you might find that the picture may change over the month, and that's fine, because different things will become richer for you. And sometimes it's kind of neat to keep the first sheet instead of tearing, put it aside and then compare what happens. But if you can do this for 30 days, you will be absolutely blown away how far you go towards realizing your vision.
I can't wait to try that one, Ravi. And as we talked yesterday, I pulled out the Thomas Troward book, and I just want to read a little quote of Thomas Troward. This is from The Creative Process and the Individual. And as you said, it's a pretty dense reading. So maybe don't pick this as your first spiritual book, but I think it really speaks to what Ravi was saying. Troward says, "Spirit creates by self-contemplation. Therefore, what it contemplates itself as being, it becomes. You are the individualized spirit. Therefore, what you contemplate becomes the law of your being." And how do those athletes create their law of being? And we want to invite you to create the law of your being utilizing this very simple technique and fun tool. And as you try this over the end of fall, I mean the end of summer and early fall, write us. Let us know how it's working for you.
Absolutely. And also the thing is, if this is a bit of a commitment to do every day for 15-20 minutes, and I almost guaranteed you'll miss a day or two. Don't beat yourself up. Just be gentle on yourself and get going again the next day. If you're beating yourself up, you're actually doing more harm. Just realize that you're building a habit. It takes time. Forgive yourself and move forward, right? And just do it again. And it's the more that you can do it every day, the more powerful it will be.
Well, I think the hardest part for me, Ravi, is you want me to tear it out of the book and release it to the universe. Okay, yep. I'll try it. I like my journals. I like holding on to stuff, but I understand there's a power in letting it go to something higher and better.
Absolutely. And actually, here's another thing that's another piece about manifestation. We didn't talk about this, is you're supposed to let it go, right? And for years, I've done this stuff, and I'm going, I have just spent all this time infusing all my excitement and energy in this, and you're supposed to let it go. How in the heck do you let it go? But I discovered how just a few years ago, when I learned a new modality, and it's so simple, is at the end, here's a sentence that you can use, is I retrieve all of my energy bound up in this vision, and I release it to where it needs to go. And it's amazing how powerful that is. Okay. Or a variant of that is I retrieve all of my energy bound up in this vision and I send it where it truly belongs. After you've rewritten the second one, when you tear up the previous one, rip it up and say, I retrieve all of my energy bound up in this vision and I send it where it truly belongs. And that's hugely effective.
And I would say to listeners, simple is always better. Repeating it is always, always great. That, we've given you lots of tools today and things to try, but if you want to just start simple, go for it. And there's no big or small in spirit. There's no big or small in God. It's what calls to you and speaks to you. So you cannot do these things wrong. If you want to just try the journaling thing for a couple of weeks, go for it. If you want to do the journaling and the meditation, the affirmations that Ravi shared, go with that too. That there, you will be guided to exactly what is yours to do and how much of this and how long you can do it. For me, maybe it's going to be 60 days of writing that journal or 90, but follow that intuition that we talked about on the last show to allow you to create the Olympic vision of your life exactly the way you want it to be.
And what this show, the concept of the show came about, well, not just to create a vision, but to own it. And the process of doing this allows you to own it and internalize it. So Holly, we're coming up on time. Just wanted to tell people you can get this podcast. You search it on iTunes, the show. Just search for Holly.
Presence, how to live and lead consciously. Yep.
Also, it's available on YouTube. You can subscribe there. You can just search for my channel on YouTube. The next show, this is about building our vision and moving forward. Every once in a while, you do get stuck, and that's what we're going to focus on. What do you do when you get stuck? Because sometimes it does happen. And Holly, there's something for September you wanted to tell our people, our audience about, because we're going to be doing a little experiment for September, probably October, see how this works for us, right?
So for September, we're going to loosely wrap our shows around a book. And I've selected a book by David Richo, The 5 Things We Cannot Change and the Happiness We Find by Embracing Them. And I actually spoke with Mr. Richo over the past week, and he's agreed to come on the show, one of the episodes. We'll keep you posted on that. But we're going to look at each week, what are those things that we need to let go of? Week 1 will be everything changes and ends. Week 2, things don't always go according to plan. Week 3, life is not always fair. 4, pain is a part of life. Ravi, I don't like that one. And 5, people are not always loving and loyal all the time. And I think as spiritual beings having a human experience, that's going to be a great conversation about how do we have light-filled boundaries around each other as we are on our learning tracks. So we wanted to give you this update in August, so you have the opportunity to pick up the book and join us as we share our thoughts on these topics in the month of September.
Absolutely. So have yourselves a fantastic weekend. I'm not sure what's happening where you guys are, but it's looking to be, summer's going out in a great way here. Beautiful blue skies, and have yourself a great weekend. We will be back next Friday. Holly?
Sounds great, Ravi. See you then.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.